Chance, goal, brilliant. Just fantastic by Nicola Barella. And he does it! And Italy are champions of Europe. Forza Italia.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to Serie's Sitdown, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. Happy Sunday. We're back.
Happy Sunday. Back on Sunday. We'll do this Sunday. We'll do next Sunday, and then we're going to go back to a Tuesday because that's Mother's Day, and we want to stay married. So
that's right. That's right.
so that's how it is working here. So. Man, Serie delivered the goods again, didn't they?
They did. What a crazy weekend. What a crazy week. I mean, we had the derbies in the middle of the week with the Coppa Italia. That was crazy. And then obviously this weekend, I mean, Salernitana, they're still a thing. Who knew? I mean, whoa. This is a crazy league.
David and Nicolas, are you going to be in the market for a Milan Juric jersey here? If David and Nicola does it again.
I don't know about that. Maybe I'll get a David Nicola hooded sweater or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
There you go. We got the chat firing up. Anthony LaFleur is on time this time. Good to see Anthony. Michael Lisi, our resident referee in the house. Emiliano Selai. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Please help me out. If you are watching us for the first time, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, also hit the notification bell as well so that you can be prompted whenever we go live. Also, whenever we drop videos. Now that I figured out how to use the video on my laptop, I might be dropping some more videos, Richard.
There it is.
So anyway, so we'll just keep an eye on that. It's been another fantastic week, Richard. Top to bottom, all of the games were terrific.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
I think it's because Juve didn't play this weekend. I think that's really what it comes down to.
And that's a good game this weekend or tomorrow as well with
Sassuolo and Juventus. Yeah. I think as far as that game is concerned, I fully expect Sassuolo to come out and be the aggressor, and Juve. I think Juve is going to soak and strike against them. So. We'll see. It's going to be an exciting game. Sassuolo kind of a reputation for playing well against the good teams, and Juventus has kind of been, sputtering to the finish here, looking at finishing fourth nonetheless, because all of the teams that could contend for fourth all tripped up this weekend. We'll see how that rolls out on Monday. So also have Inter getting finally caught up with their game in hand on Wednesday at Bologna. A not as easy as you think game. Bologna playing pretty inspired of late, playing for their manager, Sinisa Mihailovic, with what he's going through. Kind of middling as far as the table is concerned, but just trying to give people reasons for why I think that this is not a done deal for the Nerazzurri. I think they better come out and be prepared to play a very good, an opponent that's been good of late. Should have Marco Arnautovic back. Didn't have him today against Udinese, along with some of the other compliments. So that game is more compelling than you might think. It's not a done deal that Inter can win that game. Correct.
And you mentioned inspirational, not technically it's related, but not really. I mean, it's Calcio related. Have you seen the Roberto Baggio? I'm late to the party. This came out a while ago. The Roberto Baggio movie on Netflix. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that yet.
I finally saw it. It's a good movie. I liked it a lot. But it talks about Baggio and goes through his his ups and downs in his career. It's really good. And the guy who plays him is fantastic. It looks just like him. So definitely recommend it. I know people have been watching it before. It's an older movie, came out like a year ago or 6 months ago, but definitely recommend it on Netflix. It's a Roberto Baggio, the Divine Ponytail movie. So check that out. And then you mentioned Juventus. It's funny because Roberto Baggio was a Buddhist, and it was considered blasphemous to do that, in such a country, a Catholic country like, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say something blasphemous right now. We talked about Juventus previously. I'm going to say, and I'm going to get a lot of haters for this, I say Massimiliano Allegri deserves a shout for manager of the year with what he's done with Juventus, considering all the injuries this year, what he's done, how they started, and where they're at. I know not many people will agree with me, not many Juventini will agree with me, but I think it's got to be said that, the work he's done with Juventus, this long unbeaten streak, what he's done with the injuries he's had, it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
If Milan go on and win the title, it's Stefano Pioli.
I didn't say he was going to win. I didn't say he's in the running, in the shot. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vincenzo Italiano is going to get a lot of credit.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly.
If Salernitana survive.
Yeah, I think you got it. You're going to have Davide Nicola in that conversation, no doubt about it. I think those are some candidates. I think you have to give some credit to Jose Mourinho for. As far as unbeaten runs go, he had Roma on a lengthy one as well. Yeah. So, I think there have been some pretty good managerial performances. There have been some flops too. So,
and if Inzaghi wins the title, you got to give it to Inter as well. I mean, Inzaghi's done a really good job of coming off the heels of Conte and what he did with Inter last year. That's not easy to follow, especially with all the departures they had and stuff. So, yeah, a lot of good managerial jobs this year. So, yeah.
Agreed. So we'll, I mean, I don't hate the idea. You wouldn't make a hater out of me for saying that, but I think there might be two or three, whoever manages, whether it's Pioli managing Milan or Inzaghi managing Inter to the Scudetto, I think they're going to probably, have more of a chance than Allegri is. So, that's where I fall on that. So, but let's get on with it, Richard. We're going to start by just batching all 9 games, and we will then come back to obviously the most important ones. I will run down the 4 games that took place on Saturday. It started off with Torino taking on Spezia. It was a 2-1 win for the Granata. Sasa Lukic in the 4th minute, a penalty, and then he also scores in the 69th minute. And then a consolation for Spezia, Ray Manai getting a penalty late in the game, scoring that in the 97th, making it 2-1. Bremer leaves the game in the 76th minute with a knock. We don't know how serious that is yet, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. I think another guy that caught my attention, first time watching him play, Demba Sek. Did you watch this kid?
Yeah, he has a lot of good things. His finishing needs to work on that, but I mean, he's got some moves. He's got some speed. I like what I'm seeing from this kid.
Yep. So first time getting a real good look at, I know this was his 3rd game with Torino, and the finishing product isn't quite there, but a guy we might need to keep our eye on here. Young Senegalese player. When I watched him, it was just kind of like, I'm seeing some Sadio Mane there. So, and it makes sense now that it did a little
bit taller, but I see it.
Now that I actually, see that he's Senegalese, it makes a ton of sense. So, but Torino on the win there. Venezia hosting Atalanta. It will be a win for Atalanta there, 3-1. Venezia now all the way to the bottom. They have lost 8 straight matches, clearly heading in the other way versus some of these other teams who are trying to fight to survive. Atalanta scoring just before halftime through Mario Pasalic in the 44th minute. Just after halftime, Duvan Zapata played in by Luis Muriel in the 47th minute. Boy, I'll tell you what, Atalanta fans have been starving, for those two to be fit and playing together. It has not been frequent. So, but you can see the danger that they can create when they're partnering together up front. And 63rd minute, Muriel would get the goal that he was looking for, hit the post prior to this. Zappacosta with a great cross there. Had it 3-0. And then Domen Cernegoy in the 80th minute played through by Ansame, making it 3-1 for the consolation there for Venezia. The big one on Saturday, Inter and Roma. Inter winning by 3-1. 30th minute, big diagonal run by Denzel Dumfries, played in by Calhanoglu. He brings the ball forward, just has Rui Patricio to beats him and makes it 1-0. 40th minute goal of the week candidate, maybe back-to-back goals of the week. We'll see. Marcelo Brozovic after being played in by Ivan Perisic, taking on a couple of Roma defenders and then putting the ball past Rui Patricio, making it 2-0. And then just after halftime in the 52nd minute, Lautaro Martinez heading home a Hakan Çalhanoğlu cross. Big performance for Çalhanoğlu, 2 assists. Henrik Mkhitaryan with the consolation in the 85th minute. I did say Mkhitaryan would score for Roma in my thread that I put together. I just didn't get the result right. So
not so much.
But give me this. We'll talk about it. I did say we'll talk about it when we break down the game. Hellas Verona and Sampdoria playing to a 1-1 draw. Francesco Caputo misses his penalty, but the ball falls right back to him. He has an empty net to finish at, scores there. And then it was Gianluca Caprari, who is owned by Sampdoria, scoring for Hellas Verona in the 78th minute. Honors even there on Saturday. Richard, what happened on Sunday, which is today?
Oh, right. So Sunday, it was a lively day. Let's start with Salernitana, team who's in the relegation zone, trying to get out. 2 wins on the trot coming into this game, hosting Fiorentina. Goals. I mean, Salernitana came out swinging in this one. They obviously wanted to get another win in this one. They finally got in the back of the net in the 9th minute, or maybe it was 9th minute. Juric, nice play by him. They were banging at the door for a while, but they finally got it through Juric on a header. Looked like they were going to maybe chance to get 3 points until the second half, 64th minute. Saponara, nice finish by him, 1-1, and you're thinking, oh, hell no, here we go. But Davide Nicola, he finds a way with his teams to give him the heart, and in the 79th minute, Bonazzoli, goal of the week candidate with the game-winning goal. Salernitana win 3 in a row, and there's a chance, Frank. There's a chance. Moving on, Bologna hosting Udinese. This game ends at 2-2. Aaron Hickey gets a scoring start in the 6th minute. Udogie, goal of the week candidate there. Beautiful play by Udinese, kind of set that up. Destiny with the back heel flick to Udogie, puts it away. Speaking of success, he would get his goal in the 46th minute, made it 2-1 at that point. But then Sansone would make it 2-2. That game would end in a tie there. One of the craziest games of the weekend here. Empoli hosting Napoli. Napoli get the goal scoring started in the first half through Dries Mertens in the 44th minute, 1-0 at halftime. Coming out of the break, looks like they're in control. Insigne gets a goal, 53rd, 2-0. Looks like this game is set and done. Napoli are cruising, trying to stay in the good at the hunt, but not so fast. They played 79 minutes, and then the last 8 minutes, honestly, next 8 minutes, I should say. Henderson gets a goal in the 80th. Pinamonti off a terrible mistake by Meret in the 83rd, and then the 88th minute, Pinamonti gets his brace. Empoli shock everyone except for their own fans, beating Napoli 3-2, ending their hopes of a Scudetto right there. A relegation 6-pointer moved on from that as Genoa hosting Cagliari. This game, this is actually a pretty entertaining game for most of the game was 0-0. Looked like we're going to end that way, but Milan Badel, game-winning goal of the week candidate there, gives Genoa the win, and they're also thinking that maybe they're going to escape a relegation here. Cagliari are stumbling here, as are Sampdoria, as you just mentioned. The last game of the weekend, or of Sunday, Lazio hosting Milan. Milan got punched in the mouth. They're reeling from the midweek where they lost. They got beat by Inter in the derby in the Coppa Italia semifinal, 3-0 there. So Immobile scores, great goal. Both Timori and Kalulu caught sleeping in the early minutes of the game. But then that kind of woke Milan up, and it was really all Milan after that. Looked like Lazio were trying to hold on for dear life. I mean, they were sticking around for long bits of the game. It took them a while. It took them until the 50th minute where Giroud made it 1-1, and then all of a sudden you thought, okay, Milan's going to get a win here because as much pressure they were putting on there. But for Lazio's credit, they were holding their own. They're bending but not breaking. But finally, they broke in the 92nd minute. Tonali, after a great play by Ante Rebic, gets it somehow to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who heads it over to Tonali, and Tonali puts it away right on the doorstep. 2-1, Milan win on the road. Huge points. Had they lost this, they would have maybe lost their Scudetto hopes as well. So Milan scavenged points. Crazy weekend of games. Not just Sunday, but Saturday as well. Where do you want to start with all this?
Well, let's start with Inter and Roma. There was a part of me that thought Inter would hang over from winning the derby in the Coppa Italia, and then with Roma being relatively dangerous, outplaying Napoli for large stretches, especially in the second half. I thought things were ripe for Roma to go ahead and beat Inter here. I thought that a letdown from Inter, an upset from Roma, Jose Mourinho coming back against his old team's home where he won the treble. I just think, the stars were kind of lined perfectly for that to happen. But, and when I did do my pregame thread on that, I didn't get a chance to do one for Lazio Milan, although, that game went just about how I thought it would go too. But Inter and Roma came down to midfield supremacy. And like I said, I thought Dzeko and Lautaro were not going to scare the Roma back three. I thought that, if they've been able to deal with Koulibaly, if they've been able to deal with some of these other strikers and some of these other attacks, that they're not going to be flustered with Dzeko and Lautaro. And what I thought was, go and look at my thread and said where the goals are going to come from for Inter are going to be through midfield. Or even the wing backs, where I thought that Dumfries and Padisic way ahead of Karsdorp and Zalewski. So for me, that's where I thought Inter had the huge advantages. Where I thought Roma had the advantages were they were outnumbered in midfield, but they also had technical players that when they won the ball could have the passing range to spring the kind of attacks. When you looked at how Mourinho set up in 3-4-2-1, Pellegrini and El Shaarawy were going to be tasked with coming back and helping the midfield a little bit to try to make up some numbers. But they were also in some positions that I thought could put some pressure on Barella and Calhanoglu too, and it never got there.
No.
What post did IFTV make
about Davide Nicola.
About Davide Nicola. Okay. So anyway, I thought that they could find themselves in dangerous positions where you can create some confusion, especially with DiMarco playing. And I thought that maybe some of that confusion, some of the other fantasy things that I thought, would happen would lead to Roma winning 2-1. Clearly got that wrong. So, and you look where did the goals come from? Calhanoglu with Dumfries, Padisic with Brozovic. So the combination of those couple of talking points, and then, Lautaro scored on a corner, didn't score in the run of play. So I think things kind of fell, in terms of what we could expect from that game. I think that all went to plan. Just the result for me didn't. I thought Roma would win the game.
Could have been a trap game for Inter, and it wasn't, right?
And that's what I was thinking, especially Mourinho's homecoming and all this other stuff. But and like I said, I said Mkhitaryan would score, so I got that right.
It's funny because these two teams coming into this game, right? Roma went on this huge unbeaten streak, right? Which is great. Mourinho, what he's done with them has been fantastic. And then Inter are starting to play with more with swagger and confidence now. I mean, look what they did to Milan in the midweek, and look how they've been playing coming into this. They've been playing full of confidence. And so, who was going to really bend in this one? And when you think of teams with the midfields they have, both these teams have, if anyone's going to play this one-touch, quick play, and then end up with a goal, you think it's going to be Roma, right? They've done it for many weeks. They've done it. And it's it's Inter with the first goal. That was a beautiful goal started by DiMarco, tic-tac-toe all throughout the midfield, and eventually finds Dumfries on that breakaway, and he puts slots at home past Rui Patricio. So, I mean, that was just a brilliant team goal there by Inter. Yeah. And Inter looked very much full of swag, full of confidence, looked like they want to make a statement, say, this is our Scudetto. We're going to keep it. You have to beat us. And they look very strong, very hungry in this game. And that get the goal scoring started early, got the second one, obviously got the third one as well. But they came to play. They meant business in this one. The statistics are, look fairly even. But I mean, Inter were clinical again. That win in the midweek did something for them. We thought maybe this could be a trap game, but obviously it's not. And I think you got to give credit to Inzaghi, no doubt about how Inter played this year, but at times when you're expecting, most of us are expecting a trap game here or there, he hasn't prepared, especially as of late. Obviously, they had a little dip in form like a month ago or whatever, but for the most part this season, when you're expecting a dip in them, or excuse me, a trap game, and they don't have it. And this is a prime example. They could have easily faltered against a Roma who's been on this great unbeaten streak, and they didn't. And they look very strong in this game. So, I mean, Inzaghi's got this team ready. I mean, they look like they could repeat in this season.
I think you have to be impressed with how disciplined Inter are. You know, there's a time when there was a time where you wouldn't dream of saying Inter and discipline in the same sentence unless you were saying Inter are not disciplined. I mean,
and Roma had their chances, right? I mean, Anthony makes a good point. Mancini missed a sitter of a header, and if he scored that, it could have changed the game, but he didn't, and it kept going.
Clearly, you could look at Roma's back three, though, and their priority was Dzeko and Lautaro. Because they all, they kind of went as a unit to where they were running, and that's how that opened up the Dumfries goal. Dumfries just goes diagonal behind all of them. And
is that where the mistake was, do you think, with Roma? Like, trying to focus on both Dzeko and Lautaro? Lautaro's been hot as of late. I understand that, but together, when they play together, it doesn't seem like they work as well as, say, Lautaro and Sanchez or Correa or whoever. So maybe that focus defensively by Roma is what they really cost them, at least with that first goal, right? Because they pressed up so high, like you said.
Yep. And I think that's one thing that did them in. I mean, I think the other thing that hurts Roma, you don't have a midfielder here that can protect those three, and that can adequately confront Çalhanoğlu when he has the ball, or Barella when he has the ball. I think that for Sergio Oliveira, I think he's more technical. I think he's a great passer from the midfield. He's a good specialist. We know that. Juve fans know that. Pellegrini, same thing. He's a guy that you look for technique, helping keep the ball. Mkhitaryan is kind of a guy that, he's a guy that will find the spaces that the forwards are leaving, and he gets there. He gets into those positions. He's clever with his movement off the ball. But none of these guys, for me, are a stopper type player, a defensive midfield type player. And you had those guys on the bench. You had Amadou Diawara on the bench. He goes for Veretout, in for Pellegrini. Mourinho does. He goes for Bove for Oliveira. And I understand you have to chase the game. There's no reason to put a midfield stopper type. I don't know if this would be the spot to play Diawara from the start.
I think Mourinho was a little too aggressive in this, because I think, to your point, it probably would have been better, if he started someone alongside Sergio Oliveira, right? Whether it's like a Cristante or Diawara or something like that. You got two guys there to kind of clog up that midfield. And it seemed like, even though the very offensive formation has been working for Roma, this is Inter. This is a team who's been flying all season long. You kind of have to adjust. You can't just play the same style every time and hope that it's gonna win. And so maybe that's also where, you're playing with the back three with the wrong focus in Dzeko and Lautaro, and then not having the double pivot back there. You left Sergio Oliveira, to your credit, like to your point, is that he's not the guy who's going to help protect that back three. And so maybe they should have doubled up there, let the game draw out even 0-0 or 1-1, whatever, and then go for the offense. I don't know. It just seemed like Mourinho has been getting so much right lately. And I think in this instance, he should have just tweaked the formation just a little bit. I mean, it's hindsight, right? You can say it in hindsight.
Sure.
Had they won this game, you'd have been like, oh, whatever, but.
I don't know. I could see why he played the way he did. He figured, let's go and chase it. Let's go and get a goal or two. Let's get ahead, and then a Diawara can come on. This guy can come on, and we can try to lock things up a little bit more as we go. But he was never able to do that. So another efficient performance from Inter. I mean, it's really the best way to describe them. I don't think. I mean, clearly a great week for them. Winning 3-1 here, winning 3-0 against Milan in the derby in the Coppa Italia. Neither are games that I would not say they ran riot.
Nope.
They were efficient. They took their chances. They scored their chances. They're comfortable letting you have the ball a little bit more than them. What did we say last week when we were looking at this game? We were saying, they're happy to live in the 45%, and it's exactly what they had for possession. they're happy to have only that much of the ball because they can do so much with it. They're capable. They can catch you. So, how do you see their? I mean, right now, I think everyone seems to just be anointing them the champions at this point. Even with it, even they got a game in hand, but they're 2 points back. It seems like many people want to just go ahead and crown them, and a lot of people look to the fixture list here over the last few games that they have the edge, that they can make up the points, that Milan, they are expected to drop the points. I'll say this: I think that it's not too much of a stretch to say that Inter are the most talented team in Serie A. So if they do pull this off, it shouldn't surprise anyone. I think that it would be what it would be for me. It would be a surprise for me because I think I expected when I looked at it at the beginning of the season, as I'm sure you did too, there would be a psychological drop off with Inzaghi as manager versus Antonio Conte.
It has not happened really,
and it hasn't. It's amazing that it hasn't happened, and I think that that's why you have the conversation that if Inter win this Scudetto, that Simone Inzaghi is the manager of the season. So, after talking it out, so. Who knows what's going to happen? Crazy things have happened, in these title run-ins. But we're in for a thrill here over the last 4.5 match days.
Yeah, and the eye test tells you a lot too. You can't always go with the eye test, but I'm looking at it right now, and Inter looks so confident right now. It looks like there's no chance they're going to drop points. Now, it's a 2-horse race at the moment. Milan has to be perfect going through. They have to win, get 3 points every single time out.
Mm-hmm.
Inter Inter, if they mess up, they lose. But of the two teams, they look the most confident right now. They look like they're not going to lose. In their schedule, maybe a little bit easier, but it doesn't matter. This time of year, different teams are fighting for different things. That your opponents, and so Bologna could trip them up. Other teams could trip them up. But for me, between the two teams, if anyone's going to slip up, it's going to be Milan over Inter at the moment. Just on the eye test. I know you can't go by that, but I don't know. I feel it's Inter's title to lose. And granted, they have a game in hand, so obviously that's the point. But I don't know. I think they're in the driver's seat at the moment. Just the way they're playing. If they're playing like Milan, eking out victories, getting tight games. Okay, but they're winning fairly comfortably and efficiently, like you said. The last 2 games this week, perfect points. Efficient is what they are. That's what a champion does. They win efficiently sometimes. Now, granted, you can look back at Allegri's teams; they've always won ugly, right? It seems like with Juventus. So even with Milan back in the day. So I don't know. Long way to go. 4 games, 4.5 weeks to go, but. I don't know. I give my advantage at the moment to Inter. I just think they look so good at the moment. Look so good. So,
is it let's speak about Roma here real quick, because there was a great opportunity for them here. Win this. They're still in 5th, but they're close. Win this, and you put some pressure on Juventus again. Juventus can win this game against Sassuolo tomorrow, and it would all but lock up 4th for them. They would be 8 points clear of Roma with 4 to play.
Right.
Now, is this an indictment on Roma? Is this here we go again with Roma in a big game? Or has there been enough progress from them under Mourinho this season that you're willing to give them a pass just for this time, but the next time you see one of these 7 sisters, it's time to start winning?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward the latter, where I think I give them a pass because I think Inter has been so efficient lately, and so the game was fairly tight. But Inter were clinical when they had the opportunities, they scored. Roma has to do better on that aspect. But I don't think it was any. If Roma had got blitzed and lost, 3-0 or something, or they were just completely dominated from front to back. Okay, yeah, I would say this is a worrying sign, but this Inter team is good, and so you got to give a pass on this one. And if it happens again against the Seven Sisters, okay, you can maybe look at this and say, okay, maybe it's a mental thing with them, but because we thought we got over that. But this Inter team is pretty efficient at the moment, and it's hard to fault Mourinho and Roma because of how good Inter are, I think.
Yep. Okay. I'm kind of with you here. I think that, the fifth place in failing to miss top four, I think that Roma fans will look at that and they'll look at that as a failure. They'll look at that as a disappointment. But I think that you'd have to probably look at the actual body of work. I think you have to watch the games right now to see what's going on with Roma, that it's gotten better. There's more of a spine to them.
Absolutely.
You keep allowing Mourinho to get his project going, give him a chance to invest. And I get that it has not gone well for him at some Premier League stops of late. But, he might find his groove here. Sometimes a manager just needs to find a place where they can regroup and rebuild his own brand and get it going. I mean, classic example of that is Stefano Pioli, who wore out his welcome at Lazio and Inter and Fiorentina. His message just stopped getting through to the players. But here he is at Milan, and he's been here longer than he's been at any of those other places, and the message sticks. It's still there, and clearly they're fighting for this guy. They're fighting under him, and he's leading the way, and he's coming up with wins. So probably a good way to segue into Milan Lazio. Just total loss of concentration on Milan's part on the Immobile goal, but I thought it was a more clever run from Immobile than the Paramount Plus guys suggested. I think that they put a lot of emphasis on Kalulu's failure to get touch tight. I don't know if you listened to them at halftime.
Yeah.
I think you have to notice what happened on the goal, and some of that is Kalulu's got to stay with them. But I thought it was a clever run from Immobile, because if you pause it, don't watch the ball, watch Immobile and watch where he takes Kalulu first. He's almost like he's taking him to the back corner of that 6-yard box.
He's the best at that. At that.
Where those first few steps, and they're hard. Okay. Yeah. So he's dragging you there. And then at the last second, he cuts in front of you and gets to the ball before you do and taps it in. He is so clever. Immobile is so clever with his box running, and I think you got to give him a lot of credit. But at the same time, there's some guys that were switched off here. Tomori, just ever so slightly out of position, a ball that he easily could have gotten to. Didn't really need to man mark anybody there, but he was in a good position.
Busy ball watching though.
Yep, just ball watching, just switching off. But combination of some lack of concentration on the part of Milan, but a great run and finish by Immobile.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just Milinkovic Savic, great pass. I mean, he did some good work on that play too. But I think of the players that are at fault, you would lean more towards Tomori and Kalulu, right? Kalulu with the positioning, and Tomori should have been more head on a swivel. Notice who was in the box. I mean, if anyone on Lazio you want to pay attention to, it's Immobile. His movement is second to none. He just knows to find those little gaps, and he noticed that Tomori wasn't watching, so he snuck in there, dragged Kalulu out of the way, like you said, and they made that move and made that run. And so Milinkovic Savic with that great assist to him found him, and the nice toe poke by Immobile. So, yeah, it's just they were caught sleeping. Looked very reminiscent as they did against Inter when this back three, we call the back three, was Tomori, Kalulu, and Magnon. They've been so rocked defensively, stopping everybody, and then Inter just kind of exposed them. All the mistakes that they had happened all in that game, and then you start out this game with a goal against, and you're like, okay, what the hell, did we just find the kryptonite here against them? But they recovered nicely, I think, after the first 4-6 minutes or whatever it is.
I mean, after that goal, after those first 5 or 6 minutes, there was really only one team out there the rest of the way. Milan, I mean, they dominated this game. Yeah. Down 1-0 at halftime. I'm walking out of my living room saying, let me get to Mark's comment here. Wasn't listening to the halftime show. Think Lazio deserves more credit than Milan deserves blame for that goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, we gave it 50-50. I mean, we just praised the run by Immobile. And kind of the clever movement, delivery of the ball to Milinkovic Savic. So we praised that, but we did catch a couple of things there. We talked about Kalulu not being able to stay touch tight with Immobile, which was emphasized on Paramount Plus, but then Tomori just kind of napping, which was strange, you know, in a position where he probably could have gotten to the ball before it even got to Immobile. But anyway, I thought Milan dominated the rest of that first half. They were very aggressive. I think they went about it the right way. It was all about Leao 1v1 with Lazzari. And Leao constantly took the end line against him. He didn't want to take his chances cutting in and dealing with the center back. He almost every time. Where I thought at the beginning of the, you know, as this was going on, he kept looking to pull it across the 6 for Giroud, and cutback runs were wide open. Tonali, Kessie, when they were making those runs and just not finding it. So there's a little bit of that being missed. And then a positive performance on the other flank from Junior Macias, it has to be said. Yep,
one of the best players in the game for Milan, absolutely. Phil brings up a great point, because last year when Lazio scored early against Milan in this fixture, they thrashed Milan, and Milan responded very well in this game immediately after the goal. And you know, to your mention, we knew Leao was going to be effective in this game. Obviously, he was, and Teo Hernandez from the left hand side. But Junior Macias, you know, had a really good performance in this game. He was hustling a lot. Created a lot of things. He hustled a lot. He moved around a lot. Found some nice passes around. Did some nice link-up play. He was everywhere, I think, and he deserves a lot of credit in this game.
Yeah.
One of the best players for Milan. Not the best, but one of the best players. Certainly one of his better performances in the red and black kit.
I thought the effort was good. If I want to nitpick, he had some crosses that were just underhit enough. You know,
he has no right foot too. He had a great chance that he missed with the right foot, weak shot.
Are you talking about the volley, the cross that came in from Leao? Yeah, that was with his left foot.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's even more inexcusable, because that's his best foot. It's hard play, but I mean, you know, you expect a player of that caliber in Serie A to finish.
It's difficult because it's a ball that's coming at you in the air.
Yep.
And I watched it a couple of times. And his hips are practically facing Leao in the corner flag, you know, and the ball's being delivered. Yeah, and if you just try to hit a volley straight on from a position like that, that's where the ball's going to go. You've got to find a way to dip your right shoulder, do something, get where you can kind of even somewhat side volley it if you're going to use your left foot there. Now, if he can twitch his hips a little bit so that the ball gets on his right foot, now his hips are facing the target.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has a much better chance of getting something on target and putting Strakosha under some pressure. So that was the real beef I had with that particular, you know, use of technique or things like that. So,
and you mentioned Leao, you know, you mentioned the back door being so wide open, and the one time he didn't go back door is probably where he probably should have. He had a great opportunity where he faked out Lazzari, and he went for a shot near side when he had Giroud wide open in the backside, and had he even shot it and been, you know, saved, he would have been right there for the wide open, you know, put in rebound. So you saw Giroud was really pissed off at that play. But yeah, I mean, I think Milan responded very well. Lazio, I think too, were, after they scored that goal, instead of having that killer instinct like they did last year, they kind of sat back and said, okay, let's, you know, soak up some of this pressure, maybe catch them on the counterattack. And Milan just kept wave after wave after wave. It looked like they were going to break at any point. And, you know, to Lazio's credit, they held on for that first half, that for dear life. You would imagine they were going to change that second half, but they really didn't.
Yeah. I want to give a lot of credit, you know, to Pierre Kalulu too. Because he had a lot of the responsibility on Immobile throughout the course of the game. That goal that Immobile scored was his only shot of the match. So
did not do that.
Relatively speaking, he played Chiro out of the game after that. So for a young player to do that, you know, and regroup is something impressive. I mean, I think this was an overall excellent team performance.
Yeah.
Some criticisms of the substitutions that Pioli went with, especially taking Leao out late in the game. I know that came under some scrutiny. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it, and I understand people don't like Salamakers anymore, but I just looked at it and I said, Leao has to be gassed, because that is constant. Just bombing.
You could tell he was, but still, like, he was the only guy who was really doing anything. Him and Giroud, because he started finding Giroud a lot. And so I think those two players coming off, you're thinking like, what the heck are you doing? Bringing in Salamakers, I think it was Rebic or something. I can't remember exactly who came in initially. But Messias came off. He was having a good game. That made sense. And Diaz came off as well. But the guys who came in ultimately did make some moves. In particular, Ante Rebic and Zlatan Ibrahimovic in terms of winning the game. But Giroud does what he does and got the game time goal, which you expect him in the big games. He always does it.
Rebic was key. Yeah. As a substitute in some of the energy that he played with. So definitely agree with that. I can't remember, look at the Lazio side. I cannot remember a worse game from Luis Alberto that I've at least sat down and watched.
Yeah, he had like a couple flashes, but for the most part, him, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic is a little bit better, but Kessie's doing a good job on him yet again. Kessie missed a sitter also. He's not that great of a shooter, it seems like. But yeah, I think Milan did the job on them.
I think it's a credit to how Milan pressed them.
Yeah.
Because if you're pressing him, he comes. Where's Alberto? Where's Luis Alberto going to hurt you when he's entering your third?
Yep.
If he's got to come back and get the ball in his third, he's not going to hurt you.
Yep.
So but go ahead.
It's bad when Messias is tearing you apart, and so every time he beats somebody, they sub him out. Right? Radu got beat bad by Messias, and they pulled him like instantly. Messias had a really good game, but Lucas Leiva was struggling this game. Not only Luis Alberto, Lazzari was mostly ineffective. Early on he was good, but kind of faded away. Strakosha was good. Acerbi was holding his own for the most part. Patrick was decent in this game. I think Patrick was probably better than Acerbi in this one, but Lazio just seemed like they were content with sitting back. I don't know if they're content or they just had no chance. Milan was hell bent on scoring a goal and then eventually winning it. It was just one-way traffic after that early goal, and Magnon was hardly tested after that first goal.
Right, a couple of high claims on some set pieces, and that's it. I mean, nothing else that I recall that really troubled them.
So let me say this before we get even deeper into this game. For me, the play where Strakosha hits it off of Messias' face, come back at him, that's a red for me. We've seen it before. I mean, it's happened. Was it that he tried to grab it? No, but it hit his hands. Hit both of his hands. He puts it down immediately and passes away. That's a red for me. He's the last man on defense. It should have been a red.
We got an explanation from Christina Unkel at halftime.
Okay.
On that. And she said there was a specific component that you're looking for to warrant it actually being a red. And I think I didn't listen to all of it. I want to say, and Lacey, if you're in here, I'm sure you listened to it. I think what it came down to was, was it denying a clear goal scoring opportunity? Was it denying a clear goal? Was the ball on the way to the goal? I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
But that I think was the component that was missing from the referee making the decision to give a red. So
I do love her explanations of calls because though I don't always agree with her, it's nice to see the referee's perspective of what they're exactly looking for.
Right.
I really love when they chime in and ask her, what's the rules that are in this situation. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, and referees, generally speaking, referees have to be by the book and they have to go with what the laws are telling them. It's their job to, judge the game in accordance with the laws of the game. There are some things in the laws of the game, or there are some moments that might be an abandonment of common sense. But these are the laws of the game in their strictest definition, and they're being interpreted in their strictest definition. So,
and if Milan had lost, it wouldn't have been because of that. It would have been because they couldn't score a goal. They found ways.
And they had a ton of chances. I don't know.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have even been a factor. I mean, It should have been about 3 or 4-1 at halftime.
Yeah.
So
it probably would have been harder for them had they been up a man. Honestly,
right. and Michael's saying this. Yeah, and Michael's saying the same thing. The ball wasn't directly going into goal or anything. So, and that was the explanation that Christina gave.
Okay.
So, and I said that's what That's what they're looking for when they're trying to consider if it should be a red. So
I just first image that comes to my head is Pagliuca in the World Cup getting a handball outside the box and getting a red card, and that puts Italy in a bind after that game. But anyway, that's the first image that came to mind. And that's what I thought when I saw that. But all right, good to hear.
That was against Norway.
Yeah,
that was against Norway, the second group game. I remember that.
Yeah,
and that was. I'm pretty sure the referee was probably from without being at the risk of being disrespectful to that country, like not as developed as a footballing nation. Because sometimes you're going to get these referees at the FIFA World Cup that their interpretations of the laws of the game are okay. They don't
have the experience of the big games like some of the European ones.
That's what I'm getting at exactly. So
big game experience.
Yeah, they don't have that big game experience and the big game speed. To be able to process it like, the referees in England or Italy or Germany can. So, that's just food for thought. As this pertains to Lazio, we should probably break them down a little bit here. I mean, I have nothing to talk about except that goal. I mean, I think this is a rundown team. Their priorities. That whole back four has to start over. Has to be a reboot. I think Patrick's probably the only guy you can save from that group,
and that's only because of his performance in the last month or so. Really, honestly,
right? Acerbi is on fumes.
Oh yeah.
And the fullbacks. I mean, Lazzari is a wingback in a 3-man defense. He is not a fullback, and his defensive deficiencies were on full display tonight. Radu's old. I mean, it's just like it was easy pickings for Milan from the flanks, and they can really, really have a go at the Lazio fullbacks. You could press Leva, you could cause him into to do all sorts of things, put him into all sorts of trouble. I still, this is going to be an unpopular opinion among Lazio supporters. Jerry and Steven, cover your ears. Get whatever you. Go ahead and get paid for Sergei and turn that money around and reinvest it and get the squad strengthened in other areas, because you're not going to be able to threaten the top 4, heck, even threaten the top 6 when you see what teams like Fiorentina and these teams that are sitting, 7th through 10th, what they're capable of if they can continue to develop. Suddenly you're going to find yourself being that 9th or 10th place team if you're going to continue to have an over-reliance on 2 players.
It's if you look at this Lazio team in halves, right? If you go, Sergei Milinkovic, Luis Alberto, and then you take maybe Felipe Anderson and Immobile, that's a pretty good attacking players. But then the rest of the players, you're like, So then they need depth. They need better players. How are you going to get that? Sometimes you have to sell players to get more, get some money, like you said, and reinvest. I thought Felipe Anderson was decent in this game. Like you mentioned, Immobile kind of disappeared after the goal. Great job by Kalulu. But I thought Felipe Anderson was the most lively of the players. Milinkovic-Savic was decent as well, but Luis Alberto was quiet. Lucas Leiva was played off the pitch. Defense wasn't that great either. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot to look down for Lazio. I didn't think Strakosha was that bad. I thought he had some good saves in this game. Not at fault for the goals or anything like that. So I mean, a few bright spots for Lazio. I mean, I do think they're going to be better significantly next year under Maurizio Sarri. But are they at Roma's level? Probably not. Probably not.
Roma's past them.
Yeah, and they need to reinvest or get money or spend money. Is Lotito going to spend the money? I don't know. He's not the kind of guy who does that. But if you want to, you see a crosstown rival spending the money and doing better than you, maybe you should spend some money or spend at least something. You need a central defensive midfielder, and you need 2 wing backs. Find a position for Lazzari and then 2 center backs, maybe 1 center back. But regardless, it's they need some help.
Yep, they definitely do. Moving on to you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we had Anthony on. The belief was that when it was a 3-team race, the first team that was going to fall was going to be Napoli, and we tried to map out where the points were going to get dropped. We did not anticipate drop points at any, in any regard against Empoli. And here you are. I mean, and to be fair, Empoli deserved to win. I mean, Empoli played great. For anybody that watched this game, yes, Napoli had more of the ball. I mean,
Pinamonti almost scored in the first couple minutes of the game.
Empoli had a ton of chances on target. They had 7 shots on target.
Yeah.
You know, and so they put Merit under pressure all game with what limited amount of the ball that they had. They gave them trouble. You know, Napoli were going to get their chances, which you would expect. But, I mean, Napoli have bombed out of this race in sensational fashion. I get statistically that they're still in it. That's being nice. But, wow. You know, the first goal, okay, fine. Ball bounces. It falls to an Empoli player, fine. But Alex Merritt, that ball needs to be in row Z.
Shades
before Pinamonti gets within 5 yards of it. Okay. It reminded me of I was watching Chelsea and Arsenal in the middle of the week, and it's like you want to laugh at Chelsea and saying, really, Tomori's surplus to you guys, and you run Andreas Christensen out there and he can't pass the ball back to his goalkeeper. But I digress. Anyway, that ball's got to be blasted into Rosie. There's no other choice there. Give up the throw in. Let your defense regroup. Yeah. Just a shocking thing to have happen. And then just a few minutes later, Pinamonti, or was it Pinamonti that scored the winner? Yeah, It was.
Yeah.
Excellent cross.
Yep.
I mean, go and look at the Roma game and go and look at this game. There's a fragility to Napoli when you press them. You know, I mean, and I get it. Koulibaly was out for this game. So there was so many different ways Empoli were going to have a chance to go at them. With Juan Jesus back there with Rahmani, a center back partnership that just has not played a lot together.
Yeah.
But, I think that, and you got to wonder if it's Spalletti. Wherever he goes, the mental fragility just follows, because we saw it when he was at Roma. We saw it when he was at Inter. And now it showed its ugly head here at Napoli in the space of 7 minutes against Empoli.
Yeah, we used to say this also about Inter under Conte as well. Under pressure, they did not do well. They've obviously figured out how to do that now. But Napoli, it seems like you put them under the right amount of pressure. Even though they have super skilled guys, they can't cope with, maybe it's Spalletti's system or whatever. And you're up 2-0 against a team in the, a bottom team, honestly, if you want to call it that.
A team that had pretty much quit on the season.
Yes,
going in.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, the first goal Henderson scores. Okay, that's fine. You're gonna give up a goal, great. But Meret not doing his best there, and then they total collapse allowed a third goal to happen. Yes, it was a great goal, but it should never have happened. Don't give the guys the freedom to make the pass or the shot, whatever. I think Empoli finally showed up to a game here in the second half of the season, and what a game to do it. I mean, this is what I think I read somewhere it was maybe the first win since the last time they played Napoli back in December. I don't know if that's true or not, but crazy if that's the case. But yeah, Napoli, I don't know, man. They had to win. They had to win to remain in Scudetto hunt, and they lost. We already talked about last week how they're basically done. And this all but confirmed it this week. And Spalletti, while he's done some really, really great things this year, everyone's going to look back at how the Scudetto race ended. In particular, games like this where they should have won games against Empoli. If you're losing to Milan or Inter, Juve, okay, that's one thing. But losing to teams at the bottom half of the table, especially when you got so much on the line, is inexcusable. And I don't think he's going to lose his job. He shouldn't. But he needs to figure out a way to overcome these kind of hurdles, because there is a good team here. I would say 85 to 90% of this team is really good. You just have to get a couple pieces here to figure that out, because what they're doing mentally here at the end is not good enough. And they have to figure out a way how to break the press, whether it's playing out defensively, get a keeper that's good. I don't know. They got to figure that out. And until they do, you're going to have games like this, and it's going to be like massively annoying as a Napoli fan. I saw all the tweets this weekend, how pissed they are, and they deserve to be pissed off, because inexcusable. 8 minutes, you blow your season basically. So I don't know, man. I feel for them.
I do. I do as well. It's unfortunate, but is there something wrong? I mean, Merton scored, so I'm nitpicking here, but is there something wrong with Zielinski?
He hasn't been. It doesn't seem like he's been quite right. Lately, both Mertens and Insigne score, but I mean, Zelensky was so dominant in the beginning of the season. Probably the first 3 quarters of the season, he's so dominant. And then the last month or so, he's just a visual. I haven't watched the games as in depth as I could on him. I have been focusing on Zelensky, but he doesn't seem like he's been popping out. I've seen glimpses of him here and there, but I want to talk to some Napoli fans and get their point of view of with how Zelensky's been playing, because like I said, I have to go back and watch some of these games and watch just Zelensky, see how he's been playing to really have a great assessment on him. But from what I've seen, it just seems like it's not quite the same player. Maybe he's tired. Barella went through this, right, where he was just completely exhausted from all the games. Maybe he's there. Maybe Zelensky's in the same way. I don't know.
Yep. How do you fix Napoli then? I mean, what needs to be done? I mean, I think that there's no Di Lorenzo on the right-hand side. They're running this kid out there, Zanoli, who's getting some valuable experience. He's getting some great on the job training. Was it last week or was it the Atalanta game? I thought he was really good.
Oh yeah, that's
the Roma game I thought was a struggle for him, and I thought that this game was it was kind of I'd probably put it somewhere in between the other two. But you got Mario Rui, who we talk about, who can be a liability for you defensively.
Both wingbacks need to be replaced.
Yep. Well, you got to get Di Lorenzo fit again, because I think that's your best answer at right back. I think they had something really nice going with Rahmani and
they need a backup center back just in case one of them goes down or is injured or whatever, suspended. They can jump in, because Juan Jesus is not the answer by any stretch. I love their midfield. And they just got to figure out what they want to do in attack with the wingbacks. Obviously, Insigne is gone. You're going to focus with Elmas, or you're going to put someone else in there. What happens when Mertens leaves? You got all these other question marks there. What happens with Politano and Lozano as well. So, a lot to figure out who's going to stay first. And once you figure that out, replace the 2 wingbacks. Are you done with Moret now after this? Do you pick a goaltender and stay with it? How do you do that? We got 2 goalkeepers who have been sharing the limelight, really. So you got some questions, I think. But I think center back and midfield, I think they're solid. And obviously they have a striker. So
I think there's still potential with Moret, and I don't know if you just give up on a kid just on one blunder. I mean, shoot. I mean, that's a surefire way to shoot a young player's confidence.
Yeah.
That's a tough situation to be in, no doubt about it.
For sure.
Well, if we do the form table from the last 3 matches, Salernitana is joint top with Inter. And mind blown. It's 3 matches. It's not the biggest sample size, but come on, we got to give it up. And then Milan would follow on 7 points. For all of the Milan Twitter that are just kicking and screaming about their form. So
yeah, and it wasn't like they were just like sitting back playing, parking the bus and then counterattacking. No, they were really going after Fiorentina, and they had all 3 games. They've been going after teams trying to get these results. I think this is we've seen this from Davide Nicola before with Crotone, right? He finds whatever he says, however he slides up his teams, they fight for everything at the end, trying to get the points, and it's working again. They had so many chances in the first, 5-10 minutes. Juric finally got his goal, but that's the way you want to start a game. You're fighting relegation. You want to survive. You have to be the aggressor in this situation, unless you're playing like Inter, whatever. But they came at this game with the right mentality, and to their credit, they got the goals because of it. They kept coming, even when they got 1-1. They didn't stop. They kept coming, and Bonazzoli getting the game-winning goal. This is fantastic by them. Good for them. I mean, imagine if Davide Nicola should get. I mean, he will get all the plaudits if they survive. But I mean, it's just unreal what Davide Nicola can do with these relegation teams when their backs against the wall, and he finds a way to just crawl and scratch his way back into the safe zone. So we'll see. 3 points still, but
that Bonazzoli goal was Salernitana's only shot in the second half. On 26% possession. First half, they had 29% possession, 9 shots, 3 on target, including the Juric goal. If you watch the highlights, you think, well, yeah, Salernitana dominated this game. They had 28% possession in this game. They got off 10 shots in that 28% possession, 4 on target. Talk about efficient.
Yeah, they started out very well, and then they kind of, but they took their chances. They made
just
it,
getting ruthless on the break. But I'll tell you what, when you have a guy like Jurdic who can find himself in the box, and you got guys that, I mean, like Simone Verdi, who can link up with them on the break. Yeah. I like what I saw from this Nadir Zortea. Saw some decent things out of him. Mazzolchi was playing on the right hand side, and he's pumping in some crosses, and they're trying to get it figured out. I mean, speaking of guys who are finding themselves, Federico Fazio, dare I say, informed Federico Fazio.
You can say that any of us Salernitana apparently, because they're on a 3-game win streak. So yeah, even Federico Fazio, he had a goal last week, right? So I mean,
yeah,
man,
and he's converted Luca Ranieri to being a full, being a center back in a 3-man defense.
Yeah.
So
and he assist on the game-winning goal, or he had a play in it, but I don't know if he had an assist or not. But Ranieri's figuring it out too. So good for them. Yeah,
I mean, it was a game that Fiorentina didn't produce a lot of chances with what they had, which tells you, okay, yeah, you're fine. We're fine letting you have the ball, but you're going to get into certain spots and we're going to confront you. And, Salernitana is doing it the right way. They're winning their tackles. They're timing things right. They're not getting themselves in situations where they're getting overly booked or sent off. And everything's just timing right for them with the way they play. So, we'll see if they can keep that up or if that'll normalize.
They have Atalanta next. If they can, I mean, this is not Atalanta from old who can score Free Willy. So, I mean, Atalanta can be had. They've been had many times this season. So, don't look out, man. I mean, anything is possible. They could certainly beat Atalanta. Would I bet on that? No, but again, Davide Nicola, he finds ways. Nobody thought that Crotone was going to beat Juventus, several years ago, and they did.
That's May 2nd, and it's at the Gavis, and I'm going to tell you right now, if Salernitana has the ball for more than 20% of the game,
and they may get 2 goals.
And they might get 2 goals because Atalanta can't defend. They can't defend for shit. Even in the win over Venezia here today. I mean, but if Salernitana might have 20% possession in that game. And they still might score just because of how bad Atalanta can be defensively, which, I mean...
You got Church. Church is nice to have. He's good in the air. He's not that bad of a striker.
No, he's not. Not at all. And Atalanta, we know about their shortcomings playing at home, too. So it could be a perfect storm. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Atalanta, they do win. Things are better, I guess. But I want to ask you this question because I asked this question yesterday after Cernigoy scored. Is there a more disappointing transfer in Serie A relative to expectations than Juan Musso to Atalanta?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at how Atalanta played this year versus last year, it's fair to say that, hey, well, Musso joined a team. He's got to be the reason. I don't know if he is the reason. He's had some blunders. Believe me, I've seen him this year. He's had some bad games. I don't know that he's definitely not all at fault, but I think him coming to a new team, a team that's been so close with each other, maybe the expectations were just too much for him, and he had a little bit of dip. But I don't think this is a problem that it's caused by Musso. I think it's the team in general. It's Gasparini's system. He's been found out, like you've been saying all season long. I think that has more to do with it. You leave Musso out to dry, he can only do so much. No, you leave any goalkeeper out to dry, there's only so much they can do. And he been left out to dry many times this season. Now, granted, there are times, a couple blunders he had, you're just like, oh, what are you doing? But for the most part, he's been okay. It's just that when you see the way Atalanta plays now compared to how they have been, you're thinking, oh, it's got to be the goalkeeper. He's a new guy in there. It's got to be him. And I don't know if he should. It's deserving to get the fault here, because I don't know. I mean, I have to look at the statistics and stuff like that. But I would imagine that he's had a decent season overall, minus some obvious blips that he's had in several games. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on him?
it's the take that I had. I'm looking at goalkeepers right now. Average rating if you just look at SofaScore, and I'm seeing him like averaging like a 6.76, which is okay. But you certainly want to see that be a little bit better. And let me see here. Let me just push right down. Yeah, 6.76 for him. By comparison, he's kind of in the neighborhood of Alessio Cragno, Lorenzo Montipo, Silvestri. Consigli is a little better than him. Belic is not too far behind him, but then you look a little bit for Rui Patricio's at 6.84, Szczesny 6.92, Maignan 7.14, goes without saying.
They're all good goalkeepers.
Yep.
All those guys you mentioned there, they're all good goalkeepers this year. So, that tells me that Musso, has he been maybe taking a step down a little bit? Yeah, but I still think he's had a decent season.
Okay. I'm just, so who would be the transfer 34 match weeks in that, if this team got more out of you, they're clearly going to be doing better than they're doing right now?
I don't know.
Who would you say then?
I don't know. Are you talking about specifically with Atalanta or just in general?
In general.
Oh, I don't know. That's good. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's just like the transfer relative to expectations.
Yeah.
This season, just from last year's transfers. I mean, you really can't say anybody on the that came over from Milan because they're in first right now. So, and you can't really say the Inter players because they're really, Dzeko, Çalhanoğlu, Dumfries, those guys are all contributing to an Inter team that's fighting for a title. So,
Juventus is in the top four.
What's that?
I say Juventus is in the top four.
Yeah.
Sassuolo's had a big drop off. They're 10th and they were 8th last year or something like that.
But I think you had to expect a drop off from them.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
I guess the answer would probably be Musso. That's why I say that probably the answer would be Musso. Sampdoria, can you blame Francesco Caputo for Sampdoria being 16th?
No.
Can you blame the forwards that are arriving at Empoli for being in 14th? No. They've given up 62 goals. So, they're out of the teams that are not in the drop, they're tied for the most goals conceded with Cagliari. So
it's more about the managers than it is the players. Because I think in terms of players, there's no really players really swung the pendulum one way or the other. But managers has certainly been, right. You look at Hellas, who were so bad, at least to start the season, new manager. But so many teams that have gone up and down because of a said manager, like you said, like Torino. Look at them; they were threatening relegation last year, and then now they're 11th place or something crazy. So, that's probably more to that. I think, like you said, there's in terms of transfers, really nothing been sticking out. Juventino will say Vlahovic this year has helped them, but no, Juve is still struggling compared to last year. So, so it's really nothing that comes to mind.
Who's been the best transfer
this year, or since the winter?
Since the beginning of the season. If you want to go back to summer, you can do that too.
Beginning of the season, that is a good question.
Nico Gonzalez.
Nico Gonzalez has been very good.
Mike Maignan.
Maignan is probably number one.
Yep.
Honestly, because the way he's been playing this year. Tammy Abraham has been doing fantastic things, 20-something goals for Roma. Who else? Giuliano Simeone was at Hellas last year, I think, or no, it was his first year.
I think this is his first year.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good year. 15, 16 goals this year for him. Trying to think. Skamaka's had a pretty good year as well. There's a lot of good guys, but I would say Maignan would probably be the cream of the crop, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maignan, I think you can still have Çalhanoğlu in the conversation.
What?
Milan Twitter does not. Milan fans do not want to hear that. But I mean, you've got to give him his due. 2 assists today Saturday in a big game against Roma, and he's
Inter have one of the best set pieces in the league, so you could credit that to him for sure.
He's played a big part in that. Anguisse has been really good for Napoli. I think Oliveira got off to a nice start at Roma. He's kind of tapered off a little bit. There's really nobody on Lazio that joined this season that I can look at and say, yeah, you've been a big help. Yeah. And then I'd say Gonzalez at Fiorentina. So, I mean, if you're just looking at the current top 7, and you can probably, Coop Miners was getting some steam there for Atalanta for a little while too.
Yep. So Jeremy Bogo's fresh, so you couldn't really see anything from him,
Right. So Fratesi at Sassuolo, I think he's stepped right in and been really good for.
Neto's been good. Delofeo as well.
Yes,
for Udinese.
For Sassuolo, I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, and Udoji also is going to be a good one.
Sure.
For the Azzurri in the future. So yeah.
Sure. So yeah, it's Maignan up there for me. I'd probably have Akan up there, and I'd probably have Gonzalez for Fiorentina. And probably in that order. So, so that's as far as the 3 most impactful transfers this season. So, but there's plenty of others. Has Locatelli been sort of a letdown? I don't think Locatelli's in a system that suits him. Why was he so good at Sassuolo? Because he could venture close to the opponent's penalty area and create some danger.
McKennie's been playing his position this year,
Right. Why was he good with Italy in the Euros in 2020? Because he was in a position where he was given some freedom through the midfield. They're having him bogged down, and they're having him absorb. They're having him sit in front of a defense more often than not. They've kind of shackled him, for lack of a better description, in my opinion. And I think that's why he has not made the impact that he probably should have at Juventus this season. Your thoughts? You made the comment. McKennie's basically doing what we would have thought Locatelli would have done.
Yeah, and I think both players played the very similar style, and I think McKennie is good at do that when he gets involved in the play offensively. That's when he shines. Locatelli as well. I mean, I think a lot of this you have to look at how Juventus started this season. They started out very, very poorly. I mean, at one point they're flirting with relegation in the first couple of weeks of the season. So this is not the typical Juve team we've been grown accustomed to seeing the last 10 to 12 years. That everyone on the team is struggling this year, not just Locatelli. And now they finally are starting to hum and stuff, but like what you're saying is he's not in the right position for him. Now, if maybe, who knows, maybe this position Allegri is shaping, kind of molding him into will work. It could happen. But for right now, he's learning how to play the different position, trying to figure out where he can fit best. Whether you think McKennie is the guy or not going forward, I think you need to swap them, both these guys. While it would be nice for them to have both these guys at the same time out there, right? There's probably two of their better options. You probably want to have them swapping in and out. Like sort of Locatelli starts the games, and then when he gets tired, you bring on McKennie, and you have the same type of player throughout the game. That makes him very dangerous. Yeah, but they need help midfield. It's not just them. Those two and Zakaria and some of the other guys they have are not enough. They need to upgrade their midfield by for sure. They're going to lose Dybala, but their attack is pretty good. Vlahovic and Morata, if they keep Morata. Chiesa's coming back. Oh, by the way.
Coming back.
Bernadeschi's still there. Say what you want about him. Defense needs a little bit of help as well. So, I mean, Juve have some issues, and so you can't totally blame Locatelli's down year on just his performance. I think it's a team thing. If the team played better, maybe he'd be performing better. But a lot, like I agree with you, is that he's a circle in a square hole. It's not quite the right fit for him just yet. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Okay, it's fascinating. It just was interesting to have a conversation as we're getting close to the end of the season, and you can just revisit these transfers, and because there were some we had a lot of hype for, and some we had, didn't have much expectation for, but certainly they came out and performed. Should probably also point out Dumfries with Inter as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the job he did. So
Correa has been So Dumfries has done really well for them, but Correa not so much. And it's funny because Correa is an Inzaghi guy, and you would expect a lot more of Correa. I thought he would have came this year under Inzaghi and just went flying through, and it'd have been him and Dzeko. But no, it's taken a while to kind of acclimate. But Dumfries has been fantastic for them. He's kind of really he had slight transition come from PSV, but I think more of it was the play of Darmian. Darmian started the season very well. And now you got two really good wingbacks on the right-hand side there, and Perisic, excuse me.
He's leaping out of his. He's leaping out of his Twitter account and saying, "I'm ready, Simone. Put me in."
yeah. Perisic, either way. God.
It's what happens when you wear a baseball shirt to a football podcast.
Yeah.
Giroud has been a pretty good pickup. Yeah, he has. So, will anyone get Bremer?
Yes.
Well, if you listen to Inter people, they think they're getting them.
Yep, Juve think they're getting them. Milan fans think they're getting them.
Tottenham
I hope he stays in the league.
Tottenham Hotspur might get him. If Antonio Conte has his way.
Yeah, or if he goes to PSG.
Or if he goes, he could take him to PSG with him.
Yeah. But I would love to see Bremer stay in the league. He had a great year this year. Can he duplicate that? That's the question, right? Can he eventually be someone like a Koulibaly, who's just an all-worldly defender for a decade now, or is he going to be a one-hit wonder? To be determined.
I think that here's the thing with Bremer now. There's real potential for Torino to be even better without him. Okay, because they're going to get paid, aren't they?
Especially if they get coin. Yeah,
right. They are going to get paid for him.
Will Cairo do though? He didn't do it with Belotti.
I think he got overly stubborn with Belotti, and I think that he had his expectations for the market for Belotti did not mesh with reality. So, people just weren't people just weren't
Bremer could be the next great Brazilian back. He could be. If he goes to Juve and lines up next to De Ligt, Michael's asking who's going to stand next to De Ligt next year. Potentially could have a great partnership there for many years if De Ligt stays. But I hope he stays in the league because he seems a quality defender, really good one. He shut down the best players in the league so far. Every week it seems like. So I would love to see him stay in the league. Will he join one of the Seven Sisters? Lazio could use a center back, right? Roma could. Any of the Seven Sisters could use a center back of his quality.
Yep.
It's too early to say world class. It's
No, I'm not there yet. It's been an amazing season for him. He's probably going to be in our team of the season. No, he's going to be in our team of the season.
He is the team of the season now.
No, don't go that far yet. So, and Michael asked a good question. Who starts next to the league next season? So, can't be Bonucci, Chiellini, or Rugani again if they have high hopes. Does Allegri say Danilo can be a center back and I'll deputize him there? They've tried that a couple of times. They've had middling results at best with that.
They like Fiorentina. Milinkovic is a pretty good goal.
I was thinking him.
Back,
So that seems to be their farm team.
Yeah.
The way it's going right now. So I hate to say it. Vlahovic, Bernardeschi, Quadrado. Although Quadrado didn't come via Fiorentina, did he?
No.
Maybe he did.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Chiesa, obviously.
Chiesa, yep. So, but Quadrado did spend a little time at Fiorentina. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so that's not out of the question. Yeah, that's up in the air too. So yeah, summer is going to be
imagine
very, very
Romagnoli. Oh.
So, Genoa is Milan's farm team, especially during the banter era. So, but
Goran Pendev, here he comes.
Yep. I hope not. We got enough old forwards on the team as it is.
Oh my God, it would be their MO though.
No, it'd be their MO is they would bring back Mattia Destro and say, hey, he's fixed.
Just for you, just for you. I mean, so much with Milan, we don't know, because if they get the Bahrain deal, which everyone's expecting is going to happen, one of the guys, key players for Bahrain, kind of tweeted out Milan is a great club today. So you're thinking this is going to happen. We'll see. All indications something's going to happen early May. So if that happens, Milan becomes a different kind of player in the league with money that they could spend. Rumors up to 300 million that they would spend. Who knows? But it's a lot on the table now with all these teams, and in particular Milan more than anybody, because they got the ownership issues going on. So yeah, man, who knows? I mean, I imagine Juventus is going to find somebody to play next to De Ligt, somebody of quality, I'd imagine, whether it's in the league or go outside the league. But Bremer, let's hope he stays in the league just for the league's sake, because you love to have the talent stay, but you never know. Cairo should get money for him.
Yep. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Anything else from these games this week? I would say, Genoa just made the Derby della Lanterna very, very interesting by beating Cagliari.
Yeah. Genoa are fighting a lot. I mean, it's Genoa and Salernitana are both possibly getting out of here. Possibly Cagliari and Sampdoria. I mean, relegation 6-pointer and the Derby della Lanterna. What more could you ask for? I know those two. 2 years, was it last year or the year before? I said both the clubs, Genovese clubs, would get relegated. They, Liguria hated me for that, but both teams are in the hunt this year, and the next derby that comes up, it could be a lot on the line, more than just the the bragging rights. It's about who stays in Serie A. That is going to be must-see TV. Oh my goodness.
Milan and Fiorentina next week. Inter travel to Udinese. So really the last of the challenges for the title contenders. I mean, for Inter, in my opinion, at least, looking at their schedule, because the rest of their run-in is, let's see, they're at Bologna, they're at Udinese, but then host Empoli, at Cagliari, host Sampdoria. So not going to get a whole lot easier than that. Clearly they're not going to have the stumbles that Napoli had against Empoli. Milan have Fiorentina at home, at Hellas Verona, Atalanta at home, Sassuolo away. So let's just revisit this one last time, and then we'll get to the Who Won Calcio Twitter. Is it better to have a slate of teams that you're heavily favored against? And people are going to say, well, Hall, you're a Milan supporter. You're trying to clutch at straws here. Is it better to have a slate of games against teams that you're going to be heavily favored against, or do you want to live in a slate full of teams that are going to have your attention and you're going to have to be sharp? On paper, yes, Inter are the favorites to win this title, because they should go to Bologna and win. They should go to Udinese and win, but those are two tough places to win. Yeah. Two teams that are playing reasonably well right now. So at least one of those teams is going to take points off of Inter. Probably a draw, but that is a very likely outcome. It's very likely that Inter could draw both teams.
Yeah.
But would you, as a supporter, would you rather have the easier path, or would you rather have what Milan has, teams that are 6, 8, 9, and 10, teams that still are going to have your attention and your concentration level better be high against them?
As a supporter, you want to see your team play the easiest teams going down the stretch, because that's less headache for you potentially. But we know in this league that never happens. I think if you're a player, you want to have the more difficult games, just because your attention is going to be focused on that. Granted, you lose them, you lose one or two, then it's just all shit after that. But you start winning a couple, your confidence goes through the wall, and you can beat anybody. And like you said, you're so focused on the games, you don't have those slip ups as you would potentially against a team at the bottom of the table, where you try to overlook them. You're like, oh, who am I going to play next week? You're not even thinking about it, and all of a sudden, boom, a goal gets scored. You're like, we just lost the game, or we drew the game. We should have won. So I think the potential of dropping some points is there against the lower teams, as opposed to a team you got to be focused in and go all in and play your best. Milan got punched in the mouth in this game against Lazio, and they fought back and got all 3 points in that game. A huge win for them. So yeah, it's I'm sure many people will say, "No, you're crazy. It's you want to have the easier schedule," but I don't know, man. It just for the focus sake, like you mentioned, I think you want to have the slightly better, harder schedule because you're gonna be focused on each one of those games. Is it daunting? Hell yes. Is it ideal? No, but you're gonna be focused for every one of those games. You're not gonna be focused on something else, and so at least it minimizes the chance of having those blips in the game that can creep up every now and then that could cost you games. So, I don't. What about you? Excuse me.
I actually think that the way I look at these schedules, both of these teams are happy with their run-ins. Inter just destroy bottom teams. You know, I mean, they that's the stream they swim in. I mean, Milan struggle with bottom teams, but
you know who's most dangerous right now are those bottom teams who are trying to survive in the league. Those are dangerous teams to play because they're unpredictable.
And that's an argument, and that's an argument that can be had. And as much fun as I have with Marco, he made kind of an interesting point after this Lazio Milan game, saying, you know what, it might not be that bad to play against the 6th to 10th place teams toward the end of the season. I think he said 6th to 13th place teams. He makes a good point. Yeah. Because they're done. There's really not a whole lot they're playing for anymore. You know,
they're on vacation mode,
right?
Whatever.
Versus the teams that are at the bottom that are fighting for their lives, trying to stay up, and they're going to give you their best game because they know what it means to them. They know what it means to their supporters and management and things like that. You know, it's for the casual fan, it's very convenient to say, well, those teams are going to go down to Serie B, they'll regroup and come back to Serie A. Well, you know what comes with that though? Uncertainty. Are you still going to be at that team?
Exactly.
Okay, if you are, what's it going to look like when you turn up at, those first practices? You're probably not going to have the same manager. A bunch of people that you've just spent an entire season, maybe several seasons, running, and especially in the case of Cagliari, if they drop, or even Genoa, building relationships with and building camaraderie with, and suddenly a lot of those guys are gone because they had to be sold, and you're still there, or you're sold and now you're going to a totally different environment. Okay,
yeah.
So nobody sitting in from 16th down to 20th wants that feeling and wants that uncertainty, and they're going to play their ass off to avoid it. So
yeah, Salernitana, 3 wins in a row. Genoa are not the same team that they were, before Blessing. So, you got some teams there, and Cagliari is going to be fighting for their lives as well. They don't want to get relegated. Sampdoria as well. Venezia is pretty much gone, but
right.
Yeah, you definitely don't want the relegation teams. You want a team in the middle who are on holiday mode, just trying to play out the season, who are no threat to Europe and no threat to relegation. That's who you want to play.
Right. So that's been match week 34 in a nutshell. We have the Sassuolo Juve game on Monday, but we have goals of the week real quick to get through. Richard, I have my 5, but I'll let you start with yours.
All right, Brozovic did not repeat for me. He was honorable mention for me. Mkhitaryan, his consolation goal was number 5 for me. Pinamonte's game winner, his second goal, that was number 4. Udogi's goal, nice play by Udinese, kind of lead to that destiny with the backheel flick to Udogi. Number 2, Inter's team goal. I'm going to go with Dumfries' goal. It was brilliant. I think 8 people touched the ball on that goal. Really well done by Inter. And the winning goal comes to Milan. Badel, not Milan, but Milan Badel. Game-winning goal. Genoa wins 1-0. So that's my game-winning goal.
Okay. We're slightly different here. I will go with Mkhitaryan at number 5. I'm going to go with the Pinamonti winner at number 4. I'm going to go with the Brozovic goal number 3. I'm going with the Udogi goal at number 2. I actually thought Hickey's goal was a much more impressive team goal for Bologna than Udinese's. Both were quality.
Yep.
But Aaron Hickey, on the strength of some team play from Bologna, my goal of the week, and hopefully some positive mojo for Bologna heading into Wednesday against Inter.
There.
Put another twist in this Scudetto title race.
Dun, dun, dun.
Nice. So we shall see. All right, let's move on now to the world's most popular hashtag game. Who won Calcio Twitter? Richard, lead us off.
All right, where are we? Okay, we are here with Saviush Falahi on April 19th. He says Pioli had the comment of Handanovic didn't even react. Savyush says, who will tell my guy that he hasn't reacted in 5 years? Oh, poor Handanovic. Poor Handanovic.
That's true. All right. We've got at Brosholic with a tweet. Milan fans last night. Tom the cat trying to change the channel. And it's just every time he changes the channel, it's Inter scoring on Milan.
Poor Milan.
That's I like the creativity there.
Yeah,
it's against my team, but I like the creativity.
All right, next is Sansone. His new profile picture is of Will Smith in a Roma kit. I guess the slap against being a bitch. I don't know what the reference is here, but it's pretty funny from Sansone.
Yeah. All right. So La Vie en Woes at Elena Dorito nominating Tony Vaxton, not _ Carlisle. Venezia show up fly as hell only to get immediately and alarmingly sloppy. What I'm saying is they're all of us in our early 20s, and I appreciate the memories. Yes.
That's good. That is good.
That's the leader in the clubhouse right there.
Tony Vaxton. Okay. All right, next. The big show is back. It says Napoli are the Serie A, what Juve are the Champions League.
But
hey-o.
Our good friend Alex Dono celebrating Inter's victory over Roma with some authentic cuisine from the old Alex.
Oh,
Alex, what the hell are you doing?
Oh,
you never admit the existence of this place as an Italian.
Moving on.
Although I'll say this, a guilty pleasure for the longest time were the breadsticks with, and I insisted on paying the extra $2 for the Alfredo dipping sauce.
Okay. Yeah. So,
I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed to say that.
It's recorded, so it'll live in infamy here. Anyway. Next up, from Nick. Di Giovanni says, no wonder why Leclerc finished. It's a reference to F1. Leclerc finished 6th as opposed to 1st for Ferrari. Ferrari had a bad weekend, but he's a Lazio fan. So Lazio 6th place. He finished 6th. It kind of worked out there, I guess. So there you go. I like it.
All right, moving on. Let's see here. We've got our good friend Scott Monroe. Happy 5-year anniversary of Monkey joining AS Roma, then destroying the club in the next 21 months. The club is still paying for his mistakes. So,
poor Roma. Poor Roma. They've kind of figured it out.
And then finally, I think this one we just want to give everyone's attention to.
Napoli fans not doing so well. This comes from Lupo at Lupo AS Roma, and it's Napoli fans, kids completely pissed off that they lost to Empoli. I love how the adults are like, we've seen this shit before.
Yeah, these older ones are just...
They're like, fuckers, did it again to us. Oh, okay, all right. Who you got?
Oh, man. Our boy Tony Vaxton's the winner, I think.
Tony Vaxton.
Tony Vaxton or Brosholic? Which one?
Brosholic. That was a good one. That was a good one. Bringing back nostalgia is always good. I like Tony Vaxton.
Yeah, that's got to be the winner for me. That one hit a little different. We're gonna go with that. All right. So while I do that, you talk to the people.
Oh, goody. Yes, another round of Calcio is done here. 4 games to go. Yeah, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to the page, leave comments as well. Hit the notification button so you get notified. Our podcast, as always, can be found all over on iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it, we're there. And then also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff. We try to provide as much content as we can. Any ideas for us, please let us know. Anything you'd like to see, let us know. Tweet us at Serie Sitdown. But yeah, you can follow me. You see my hashtag here, or my handle here, R_Carmen. That's where you can find me. But yeah, Serie Sitdown. Just follow us there, and yeah, you can get all the content. Serie, stay up to date there, and yes, Coppa final. When's the Coppa final? It's in May, right?
May 11th.
May 11th. All right. Before my vacation.
I thought it was right after the season. It actually isn't. It's going to be right when Inter's in the middle.
In the last week. It's in the last week, I think, or something crazy. In between two big games for Inter, which is another thing that's going to throw a wrench in all of this.
Yep. So all right. So we went ahead and Tony Vaxton, well played. Yeah. I made a side note on that saying I don't remember a whole lot about my 20s, but I'll just make the assumption that they're very similar to how you're describing this. So,
I remember mine.
Coming in hot, walking out sloppy. Oh my! So I think with that, we're going to put a bow on this edition of Serie Sit Down. Anything else, Richard?
No, but I'm going to plug a T-shirt because that just reminded me of when I was on the swim team and the team we played against. It says, "Come in hard, go out wet." I was like, "Oh God, here we
go." Way off the rails now.
Off the rails, but yeah, I got nothing. Chin chin.
Okay, I have never seen a T-shirt like that before.
Yeah, I should have bought it when in high school, but no.
All right. I'm at FTC_21. Serie Sit Down. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. We're also on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. I almost said Twitcher for some reason. That doesn't exist.
We're on Twitch.
Are we on Twitch?
We're on Twitch.
Very nice. Okay, so we are on Twitch. But anywhere there's podcasts, there's Serie Sit Down. So check us out at Serie Sit Down on Twitter or Instagram. Go there, drop a comment, drop a thought or two, a question that you want to hear answered on future podcasts. We're all interested in that. Also can be found on Facebook as well. So
chat, thank you.
Yeah, great stuff, chat, man. Great questions, great conversation. Always good to have the cast of characters. Couple new faces in there. Although I think Mark Strip has been in here before. Yep. Emiliano, good to have you. Dominic, good to see you again. Anthony, Mike, everybody else. If I left anybody out, please forgive me. So want to thank you guys for your loyalty. Richard, let's do this again next Sunday night.
Yes,
all
sir.
right. We will do it next Sunday night, 9 East. Be here to join us. Until then, keep telling your paisans about us. Ciao.